Hey guys, sorry about that. I had to come over here and do this over here. I had to put that live in here. I gotta delete. Hey Mimi, where you been, Mimi? I gotta take off the other one, delete the other one off the other channel. Because that stuff is a little bit too much. Hey Henny Hen. Henny Hen is back. We're waiting for the people to come in. Delete the other one off the other channel. Henny Hen, turn that down.
I did. I always open it on that thing and then I gotta shut that down.
Hmm.
That's nonfiction, right?
It's fiction.
Fiction. Okay. Hold on. I'm tweeting it out and then I gotta.
Hey Koopy.
Hey,
Hey.
Hey, Koopy. How we doing?
Good.
Hey,
Yeah, turn your YouTube down.
how we doing? Yeah, I'm finna turn it off.
Okay.
Okay, I got it off now.
I was waiting for Tanya to come so she could finish reading this stuff. It's crazy.
You see that email I sent you?
When today?
Mm-hmm.
Just now?
Maybe an hour ago.
Oh no, I haven't been in
Oh,
checking it.
okay.
Hold on. Okay, Tanya, you ready?
Yes, my husband's trying to make me eat something. I'm not going to. Okay, so we're going to start at. Okay, let's see. Learning about his past was heartbreaking. Even back then, I could see how the trauma. I could see the how the trauma he experienced molded him into the man he was, and having some of the deeper things in common with him is what drew me deeper into him. I trusted him with everything, and he trusted me. Showdown, car sex on the south side. So I wanted to surprise Daddy and do something to let him know I was serious about us. I was so touched by everything he shared with me about his past, and I wanted him to feel safe and secure. I wanted him to know I wasn't going anywhere and that I wouldn't be like everyone else in his past. So I went to this dude I knew who graduated a few years before me and got Daddy's name tattooed on me. It was cute, small, intimate, and sexy, right under my left boob. I couldn't wait to
That's
show him.
Rhonda.
Hmm. Yeah, I couldn't wait to show him. Daddy hadn't answered or responded all day. I was growing bored. My days and nights had really become about him. I really didn't have hobbies or friends anymore. All I ever did these days was spend time with him. But I also knew he had an agenda to keep. I tried not to blow him up, but just sitting in the house wasn't in the tarot cards for me this day. So I figured I'd go chill on the block, catch up with some old friends, or go by my cousin's house. I've been so caught up with Daddy, I knew she probably felt neglected. I could just hear Keisha now. Um, Bitch, don't come over here now. You don't do me no more. Yeah, I could use.
You okay? Henny, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, I wonder what happened to her.
Where's she at?
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Oh, there
Oh,
we
yeah.
Okay. 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 So yes, I could use a few laughs. So a pop up with some girl talk was what I decided on. I remember it like it was yesterday. It was a hot ass summer day. I put on a tank top with no bra, some denim dukes, really short jean shorts for those who aren't familiar, and some cute sandals. I told my grandma I was headed to my cousin's and I'd call her when I got there. While walking, a million niggas must have stopped me trying to holler, but I kept it moving. Daddy was the only man on my mind. There was nobody better than him in my eyes. When I was close to Keisha's, I saw a black truck that looked like Daddy's. When I got closer, I peeped the tag and realized it was Daddy's truck. I remember thinking to myself, what the fuck is this truck doing parked in an alley on the south side? I peeked in to see what I could see through the tents, and when I saw him, me seeing, but what, okay, and what I saw had me seeing red. I spazzed the fuck out. All I remember was opening the door and beating Keisha's ass so bad she was covered in blood. The nerve of this bitch. No, the nerve of his ass. All I could do was cry. I felt so stupid for believing all the shit he told me. He didn't fucking love me. He kept grabbing me saying he was sorry, and I didn't want to hear shit. I slapped the fuck out of him and told him to go tell that bitch he was sorry. Thank God a nigga I knew from around the way was driving down the alley. I waved him down, hopped in, and dipped. There was nothing left to say. Far more. Back home, I couldn't stop crying. I had no one to talk to, so I started a journal. I couldn't believe him. I didn't know who to be angry with. She knew everything. She was the only person I told everything about him to. She knew how I felt about him and that he was my first. I felt so dumb. Now here I was with this fucking tattoo, wanting to surprise this asshole, thinking he was serious about us. I just felt humiliated and used. I started to question everything. Did he ever really care? I was a mess. Daddy was blowing me up every day and all night. He left voicemails and even sang to me on some of them. But I couldn't just let him get away with this. I don't care how much I missed him. After school, I went straight home. I avoided all of my usual routes to make sure I didn't bump into him. After 2 weeks of this, I was home one day, and then there was a knock at the door. My Nana answered, and I heard Rob's voice. I was terrified. I hadn't told my grandma anything about us dating, and I didn't know how she would take him showing up. I heard him introduce himself, and I heard my grandma screaming and laughing, saying she knew who he was. I heard him tell her that he had been talking to me for quite some time now, and I was afraid to talk to her about us because of the age gap. But he assured her his intentions were good and his feelings were genuine. He told her he respected my mind and body and that he had not and did not plan to attempt anything physical until we got married. I stood there listening to all this his bullshit through the door. He was so charming and a master fucking manipulator. Lies were always flying out of his damn mouth. My grandmother must have given him her blessing because she called me out and said, Robert's here, while blushing. This shouldn't have surprised me. My Nana was old school and my grandfather was 21 years her senior prior to him passing. All I could do was roll my eyes. I figured he must have been desperate if he risked coming here knowing she could have disapproved of us talking. I stood by the wall and said, What? With an attitude. My grandma actually got on to me and said, Girl, don't be rude. Go outside and talk to this man. I rolled my eyes, put on my slides and headed out the door. I couldn't believe her. Rob smiled all the way until we got to his truck and he locked the doors. Then he popped me in my mouth. What the fuck is wrong with you? I know you saw me calling your ass. I couldn't believe him. This bitch really had popped me in my mouth. All I could do was hold my mouth in shock. Then he apologized and said he was sorry, but I pissed him off. I sat there for 30 good seconds holding my face and then I attacked his ass. I just kept hitting him and crying, screaming, my cousin, my fucking cousin. over and over again. He grabbed me by the throat and slammed me into the passenger seat of the window. I said, chill. I couldn't fucking breathe, and it felt like he was going to break every bone in my neck with that one hand, so I stopped. He let me go, and I said, you still on this bullshit I see. Get out my truck. I was fuming on the inside. How dare he? But you know what? I fixed my fucking hair, wiped my tears, and told him to unlock the fucking door so I could get out. Then he got mad about the talk. He got mad about that, talking about I wasn't going no fucking where. I'd be lying if I said I wasn't happy to hear him say that, but I was still angry about that alley shit. He told me that he came to apologize and to tell me he ended shit with my cousin. He told me what we had was more important than her sucking his dick, because that was all it was. I'd be lying if I said I wasn't relieved to hear that, but looking back, I forgave his ass too easy. As soon as he said that, I jumped on him and kissed him. We had sex right in my Nana's driveway. I couldn't wait for him to strip me. When he saw the tattoo, he went crazy. He was so happy. He asked me to come live with him. I couldn't believe it. Without even thinking, I said yes. Our shit was so dysfunctional. Be careful. My first night meeting with Daddy's other girls, I got into a fight. I think his little runners were even shook. I heard one of them whisper to the other, oh, he got his hands full with this little bitch. And I didn't give a fuck. Like, what the fuck did he really think? You think I'm just gonna sit here and let this hoe lie on me because she's fucking jealous? Then sit here and let you fucking check me on some retarded ass shit this hoe told you and try to put your hands on me? This nigga had me fucked up. We fought all night that night. It took 3 of his little friends, runners, or whatever you call them niggas, to get me off that bitch. I was climbing the motherfucking walls trying to get. Do you know who fought with one of the runners? Geronda. What's her name? Not Geronda. Faith. Not Faith. The other girl.
Ashanti.
Ashanti said she had gotten into it with one of the girls.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, I was climbing the motherfucking walls trying to get out of their grip. Do y'all hear me? That's when dumbass showed up, snatched me up, dragged me by my hair to another room with me kicking and screaming, slapped the fuck out of me, and pinned me to the wall. I was fucking livid, breathing hard, sweating, and fuming. I can hear this bitch now asking me what the fuck is wrong with me and why did I do that to my sister. My sister, I screamed. This nigga was delusional. That bitch was no fucking sister of mine. I don't know what the fuck he was thinking, and at that point, I really didn't know what the fuck I had walked into, but I was out. I had never been called stupid and a bitch so many times. He told me to straighten my face, and I screamed hell no and spit in his face. His eyes got so big, I thought for sure he was gonna kill me. He slapped me so fucking hard my nose bled. I jumped on top of him and tried to rip his fucking eye sockets out. I punched him, I bit him. I was gonna fucking kill him, y'all. I had him good. He couldn't get me off of him. I was tired as fuck, but I couldn't stop because I was scared he was going to kill me for sure at this point. I had him so good till he started screaming for them to come and help him. And once they got me off, he slapped me till I felt I was fucking dizzy. He yelled at them to leave and pinned me down to on the floor. I kept crying and screaming that I hated him and that he better not let me fucking loose because I was going to kill him. What he did next, I honestly didn't expect. With one arm, he had me pinned down to the floor, and with the other, he stripped me naked. He kissed and licked on every inch of my body, starting from my neck, my cheeks, and eventually my lips, and found his way down in between my thighs. I was still fighting at first, but he was so passionate, I think my body gave in before my mind could catch up. I was gushing. I was so fucking wet. I was mad. I was turned on. I wasn't going anywhere, and he knew it. He ate my pussy for what I felt like an eternity, and I loved every minute of it. He kept telling me he was sorry for not believing me, and he loved me. He kept telling me babies saying, he kept calling me daddy's baby, saying I had a tantrum, but daddy knew how to fix that. He said I needed to be beat, and he knew just what kind I needed. He sat up and pulled his dick out. I don't think I ever seen it so big. He was super hard. He fucked me like he had never fucked me before. There was no instructions this time. He just fucked me and gave me more and more dick. When he finished me off, he took a deep stroke and fed my pussy all his babies. Then grabbed me so tight around my throat I couldn't breathe. Looked me in my eye and told me if I ever pulled a stunt like that, like what I did that night, he'd kill me. He laid on top of me, staring me dead in my eyes, so I knew he meant business. Stuck his tongue down my throat, kissed me, and said, "You better be lucky Daddy can't get enough of this pussy." I was shook. Dedicated. The next morning, Daddy booked me a huge suite and we acted as if nothing happened. The most we ever spoke about it was him calling me Daddy's spoiled baby and telling me we weren't going to try that anymore. He said I better get used to these sweets, and I was relieved. Walking into that situation with those other girls was just awkward vibes for me. I was too possessive to be surrounded by and sharing my man with a handful of bitches. It just wasn't me. And if he wanted me, which he clearly did, he knew he'd have to handle me differently. From the minute I walked in, I kept feeling like something was walking through me. I had goosebumps. The hairs on the back of my neck stood up, and I was uneasy. The dimmed lights, the workers who refused to speak, it felt like a million eyes were wrongfully placed on me, and you should have seen them. They were like his little fucking puppets. Anything he wanted, they jumped to do it, no matter how awkward or odd the request. I mean, I literally watched this man tell one of them to get on all fours and crawl to him like a dog, and they did it. What? I even watched him punish two of them for not performing to his liking. I could never. I mean, sure, I was a freak and all, but it was something that about the way he handled them and something about the way they behaved that just wasn't normal. It was beyond being starstruck. Looking at them was like looking at empty canvases with no soul, no opinion, no nothing. It was almost as if they were brainwashed. It was scary, and I recognized immediately that they were not the same, that we were not the same, sorry. As the day went on, Daddy assigned me a bodyguard, or at least that's how it was presented to me. He told me whenever he couldn't be there, this guy would protect me and make sure all my needs were met. Made sense to me at the time, so I agreed. We'll call this bodyguard Ray. And Ray was cool. He's the reason curiosity didn't kill me. He wasn't supposed to talk to me, but let's just say he kept me well informed. He explained to me why the other guys were always so weird acting around me and never spoke. He let me know that they were following direct orders from Daddy. They weren't supposed to speak to me or look at me. Just make sure I was where I was supposed to be, with whom I was supposed to be, when I was supposed to be, doing what Daddy approved of. And they were always to report back. Our convos were to be strictly through text and only in regard to food orders or supplies requested. It's safe to say Ray broke all those rules. We got really close during our time together, and for some reason, I never worried about him running back telling Daddy the things I said. We had a bond, and he really felt like family. I remember him telling me that Daddy must really care about me because of because a lot of the things I get away with wouldn't fly normally. He told me Daddy had never accommodated a girlfriend and separated them from others to please her. He told me I was lucky anyway because the things that go on behind closed doors with those other chicks was with and him was sickening. I didn't know what he meant, but I didn't want to know either. So I made him promise to never mention the girls to me. I just wanted to focus on me and Daddy and pretend they didn't exist, honestly. I didn't know how he was treating them, nor did I care. His actions in my mind at the time showed me he was dedicated, and I was, without a doubt, his favorite girl. Don't say no. Don't you say no. Life couldn't have been better for me at this point. I felt like I was on top of the world. Things were just too good to be true. Daddy and me were spending lots of time together. He was always doing and saying the sweetest things and showering me with gifts, designer bags, shoes, and shopping sprees. It was like every girl's dream. I never had much growing up, and I didn't know my parents. It was always just me and my grandma. So imagine me being showered with all these compliments, affections, affection, and gifts. There wasn't anything he wouldn't do for me, and I was pleased. Sexually, I was now a butterfly. He had me more open than I'd ever thought I could be, and it felt good. My confidence level was through the roof in all areas, and I was always glowing. Then there was this one night, I think Daddy felt like he had been doing enough of what I wanted to do, and it was time for me to do things he wanted. He shot me a text and told me to head over to a suite a few levels above mine. So I did, and what I found there was in no shape, form, or fashion what I imagined. I knocked 3 times, as always, and Daddy answered the door. From what I could see, it was dark as hell and there were candles burning. He didn't speak, just kissed me and opened my robe to make sure I was naked as he requested, and I was, naked with black stilettos on. He seemed pleased. He cornered me by the door, started sucking my nipples and fingering me. It felt so good, I just leaned back and closed my eyes. I couldn't control my moans. He took his finger out of me and slid them into my mouth so I could taste my juices. I told him it tastes good, and then his tongue kissed me, and then tongue kissed him so he could see. Immediately after, he cuffed me and blindfolded me, then led me into the dark room. He stopped me and told me to touch my toes. I bent over and did as I was told. I could feel him spreading my ass cheeks, smacking them, and eventually I felt his tongue and lips biting and kissing my ass all over. And then I felt his tongue and lips all over my pussy, so I thought the hands I felt touching me weren't manly at all this time. And then I heard moans, female moans, and I heard Daddy say, um, put it in her ass, put it on the bed. I want a clear shot of this shit. I want both of you to fuck her, eat her pussy. You finger her, you better not stop. Even if she begs, don't stop till I tell you to. I felt one of them shove their fingers in my ass. It felt like she put something inside. Before I knew it, I didn't feel like myself. Something was happening. My pussy was already a river flowing. It instantly became 10 times wetter. Felt like I broke out into a cold sweat, but I felt so good. It felt like one more lick would make me climax. Still cuffed, they laid me down. Understand, this was in no way what I thought I'd be doing in this suite, but I swear I couldn't speak. Her head had me gripping the sheets above my head. It was so fucking good. All I could get out was moans. I felt the other fingering me and I found myself guiding her. I couldn't hear Daddy moaning. I could hear Daddy moaning too. I was in ecstasy. When I woke up, the girls were gone. Daddy was sitting down smoking and drinking. I stretched, yawned, and went to sit next to Daddy on the couch. He asked me how I slept and poured me a shot. He handed me a pill and told me he wanted to try something a little different. I saw a line of coke on the table. At the time, I had no idea, but Daddy told me to snort. And as I told him, slept good, slept real good. I downed the pill, the brown, and snorted the line. Daddy instantly went to kissing and licking on me. He was rock hard. I could feel it, and judging by the pill, that line, and the drink, I knew it was going to be a long night. Daddy instructed me to play with my pussy while he touched me. I did as I was told. My hands were covered in my juices. In no time, Daddy came to relieve me. He ate it while staring me in my eyes. I told him I wanted some of Daddy's dick in my ass. He looked surprised. Hell, so was I, but he didn't hesitate to beat this pussy up and flip me over. I felt Daddy snort a line of a few lines off my ass cheek. He cleaned my rear end with his tongue, and the rest was history. Love land. From there, it was on. We went on tour, and every night there was so many girls, so many drinks, so many drugs, so much sex. First it was weed, then the MDMA and coke. Liquor was always in heavy rotation. He kept me so high and intoxicated that oftentimes I couldn't tell one day from the next. All I knew for sure is that there'd be more partying and more sex, and as long as I was under the influence of something, I was always in the mood. I remember because every encounter he fed me X or Coke and say, "You ready to go to Loveland, baby?" He fucked me in the sprinter, in the dressing room, the restrooms, the suites, studios, strip clubs. Anywhere we went was a potential sex scene. He fingered me at dinner tables, under blankets while traveling, made me suck his dick in front of employees. He kept me open and ready. Mid tour, he had me so open I began scouting new girls for us to play with, as he called it. I upgraded from the little girl who just laid back and took shit. I was now dominating bitches in bed. I was eating pussy, ass, and fucking daddy any way he liked it. I didn't know who I was becoming. All I know is it felt good. I was daddy's little freak. I did what I was told, occasionally talked back, and fulfilled all of his sexual desires. We fucked so many bitches together, I lost count. Anybody he wanted, we did, including my ex best friend and cousin. Role playing with role playing with tutus and sexy schoolgirl uniforms were his favorite. He liked the look of seduction wrapped in innocence, or at least that's what I was convinced myself at the time. You going to say something?
Deronda Pace said that tutu shit. I'm sorry. All these girls, they all said all this stuff in here is exactly what they said in court. That's just crazy.
At every encounter, he would always carry me to bed and give me head or fuck me until I nutted what felt like a million times. He would always whisper to me how happy I made him and feed me more liquor or more drugs. I used to black out a lot back then. I'm guessing from all the alcohol consumption. I have broken memories of our sexcapades during the height of my drug use, but certain things he used to say will never leave me. It's imprinted in my head. I'm not gonna read that part. You drive me crazy. I love you so much. Daddy told you always make you feel good. All you ever need is daddy to make you feel good. You make daddy so happy, baby. My little princess, my little freak. I always remember hearing these words before I slipped into what I felt like a temporary coma. He always whispered it to me while feeding me long strokes. I loved his dick and even more while flying. I was jet high. I remember one night specifically. We had just left the strip club late from an orgy with 5 dancers. I came so many times I could barely walk upon exiting. I ate more pussy than that night than I ever had, and I liked it. Me and one dancer enjoyed ourselves a little too much. I don't know how many body shots or blunts we had, but we bumped coochies until there was literally a huge puddle underneath us. Daddy loved it. While we fucked, he would watch as he took one dancer from behind. She had a mouthful of pussy, and the other two sucked on his dick and balls as he went in and out. Meanwhile, Ray taped it all. What? And jacked his dick. Isn't that the bodyguard or whatever security? Mm. After we left, isn't that who that?
Yeah, it
Yeah.
is.
Okay. After we left, I remember being in the sprinter and him lying me down. He touched all over me. He began to massage my clit and asked me how I felt about sex with other men. I remember faintly asking him through moans how he wanted me to feel, and he said, "That's a good girl. I got something waiting for us in the suite." Upon our return, he had Ray carry me to the room. I remember him tossing me over his shoulder. The staff knew us well, so there was no cause for alarm with my half conscious body thrown over his shoulder. When we entered the suite, Ray gently laid me down. I expected him to leave, per usual, but he took off his jacket and shoes as if he was getting comfortable. Daddy did the same. They poured up and smoked a stogie. I remember Ray asking him if he was sure I was ready for this. Oh, yeah, she's ready. Daddy stood up and stripped from head to toe. I'm not sure if I thought I was laying there blacked out, but my eyes were wide open in amazement because the next thing you knew, Ray was giving Daddy head. I laid there and listened to them both moan. Now I knew Daddy watched gay porn, but in all our encounters, this was the first. He signaled Ray to stop and strip, then headed over to me. I shut my eyes. He gave my pussy a big wet kiss and my body shivered. Then he played with my clit and kept whispering, "Wake up, baby." I stretched and opened my eyes. He told me to come sit on Daddy's dick. I did as I was told. I looked around but saw no Ray. Where'd he go? I thought, but I straddled Daddy as he lifted my dress over my head. I was so wet, Daddy slid in and filled my walls with no difficulties. We both moaned as I dipped and grinded on his dick. I kept moaning and saying, "Daddy, I love you." He said, "You do you?" And my response to moans was, "Of course I do." "Yes, Daddy." He started to fuck me back and said, "Well, show me." "Come here, Ray." I looked around with a shocked face, and to my surprise, Ray's dick stood at attention in my face, and it was huge. My eyes grew wide, and Daddy struck me gently and told me to relax. He told me he shared everything with Ray, and now it was time for me to share some of my good stuff with him. He told me we were a family, and family made each other feel good. Ray began to gently kiss my shoulders and whispered, "You don't know how long I've been waiting for this." Then he picked me up and carried me to the bed. I didn't know what to do. I liked Ray and all. We had grown close, but I never thought in a million years we'd be. And then he stuck his face in my pussy. Oh my God, his head. It was driving me crazy. Fuck, it was so good, but I was terrified to moan. Daddy was the only man I'd ever been with, and I knew his temper. I remember asking Daddy if he was sure if it was okay. He shook his head, lay back, and jacked his dick while filming. Ray got up and eased his dick in me. His eyes rolled in the back of his head, and he went in moaning. He laid on top of me and long stroked me as he kissed me so passionately. After a 10 count, I found myself throwing it back, and we were thrusting deeper and deeper. He growled in my ears. He was so fucking manly, it turned me on. His scent, those tattoos, that chocolate skin, and that huge fucking dick. It was everything. He kept saying fuck as he went faster and faster. He was whispering my name while his arms shook, and he found himself no longer in push-up position over me, but laid lazily on my shoulder. He never stopped stroking though. He kept whispering, "Fuck this pussy good, so good, girl." Oh, I see why this nigga. I just laid back in total ecstasy and took every inch Ray had to give. I wrapped my legs around him and pushed his ass deeper in me with my feet. I wanted all of that good meat. I didn't want him to ever stop. Daddy's dick was good, but Ray he was everything. Those fucking growls had me nutting all over the place. He sucked and licked on my titties, then started sucking on my neck, and it drove me crazy, crazy. He whispered in a very low voice that he was going to put his name in this pussy because it was his now. Then started tongue kissing me. I almost forgot Daddy was in the room until I saw him hovering over us. He smacked Ray on the ass and said, "That's enough." But something got into Ray and he didn't stop. Daddy said, "Ray, that's enough." Ray was growling and taking his pussy. All I could do was call Ray's back because I was about to come. Daddy yelled, "Nigga, that's enough. What the fuck?" But I was moaning, "Ray, don't stop." And he didn't until he nutted. Then he looked me in my eye and kissed me on the lips. I was so fucking turned on. Daddy looked like he wanted to kill Ray, and Ray gave him a look like, "What, nigga?" Per Daddy request, they entered the other room. I just stayed put. Shortly after, Daddy came into the other room where I found Ray laid out naked on the bed. Daddy cuffed my ass and picked me up. He kissed me and put himself inside me right where he stood. He fucked me real good before tossing me on the bed next to Ray. He told Ray to get up and he laid down and signaled me to get on top, so I did. Daddy smacked my ass as if I needed to get on my job, so I put him inside me and began to ride. I felt I could feel the warmth from Ray's body behind me, and then I felt I what felt like Ray thrusting. I quickly looked back, and and as I was riding Daddy, Ray was fucking him in the ass. I was so shocked. The only thing I ever seen go in Daddy's ass was that dildo. I know he told me the G spot was back there, but this was next level. I know my thoughts were written all over my face. Ray leaned up and started kissing my neck and rubbing my breast from behind. I just kept riding. I told myself I had to stop thinking so much and just live in the moment. Ray started funneling my click when I rode Daddy's dick and I squirted everywhere. By the time the sun came up, there was a dick resting in my pussy and another in my ass. My God, I had just had sex with two bisexual men and I liked it. He had created a fucking monster. Penny, can you take over just 1 second? Sorry.
Yeah, I can. Let's be real now. Funny how times fly when you're having fun, right? Allow me to share the morning of my 18th birthday with you. We were just getting off a tour. I just so happened to wake up before Rob one morning, which rarely happens because he rarely sleeps. But I went to the bathroom and there was so much pain. I looked at my area and saw what looked like blisters at the entrance. I freaked the fuck out. Rob walked in and asked me what was wrong. I started crying as I showed him. I told him I needed to go to the doctor's ASAP, like I was really freaking out. He told me to calm down and he'd call it his in house physician. Daddy doesn't do hospitals. That same thing Geronda Pace said. I really wanted to go alone, but he wouldn't let me. He said people knew I was his girl, and because he's a celebrity, they would be do creepy shit like try to sell my hospital records, etc. So I agreed to be seen by this in-house doctor, Doc. We'll call him Dr. Smith. It was so awkward lying on a hotel bed, getting checked by some strange white man, but I was dying to know what was wrong. I was only 18 and had never had so much as a yeast infection. I was so scared. When Dr. Smith finished his examination, he wrote some things down and treated me as if I was an infant. He didn't tell me what he'd found. He went to Daddy. He gave Daddy the medication and told him everything that needed to be done. I was pissed. Hmm. Hello. Like, what the fuck? So I impatiently harassed Rob about the results. He just looked pissed and sat in the corner looking out the room window. He slid me the paper without looking at me. I quickly snatched it. Hell, he can barely read anyway, so I didn't know why the hell the doctor gave it to him in the first place. My stomach dropped as soon as I read it. What? I couldn't believe this. I'd never seen anything other than a mole on his dick. Was I reading this correct? Then the tears started flowing, and all I could do was ask him why. He didn't say a word. He just kept looking out the window. I started yelling and screaming. Look at me, Rob. Look at me. Why? Answer me, damn it. I knew he knew. I just knew he fucking knew. How could he do this to me? And then sit there like he didn't even fucking care. This was my life. This was some shit I'd have to live with forever. I couldn't believe it. And do y'all know He never even looked at me. No eye contact, no explanation. Once I stopped yelling and just laid down sobbing on my pillow, he got up from the chair and said, with my back turned to him, "You said you wanted me, right? And everything that came with me. Now you got it. Deal with it. I'll make sure you get your medication." And just like that, he left the room, slammed the door, and we never discussed our condition again. I remember I tried to bring it up once before a session we had with these two chicks he had me recruit. If they don't ask, you don't tell them. And if they don't ask, there's nothing to tell. After over a year, I was finally meeting the real him, cold blooded.
Okay. Down low. Meanwhile, Daddy had for sure started some shit I honestly didn't know how to kick. For 6 months, me and Ray creeped around. Every day Daddy left, Ray would leave, post, and break all his damn rules. I remember the very first time Daddy left for his normal all nighter at the studio. I heard the door open as I was drying off in the bathroom. I thought for sure maybe he'd forgot something. But as I bent over to dry my legs, I smelled Ray's cologne. Excuse me. And then felt him
What's
push.
that? There's something popping on your thing.
I'm sorry. Can you hear it now? Is it gone away?
Is it your headphone?
Yeah. Is it still popping?
No, no, not now.
Okay. I smelled Ray's cologne and then I felt him push up behind me. Ray was always so gentle with me. He knew just what my body needed, but most of all, he knew just what I needed. I was so torn, and it was odd. It was like Ray had changed. He was still very protective of me, but he definitely didn't seem like much of a fan of Daddy's these days. He filled me up with information per usual, but this information terrified me. I couldn't help but question if he had just made these things up because he had fallen for me. He went against my initial request of not mentioning the girls to share horror stories of Daddy locking them up, starving them for days, beating them, and even told me in addition to living girlfriends, Daddy was helping run a sex trafficking ring. Oh my God. And kept a large amount of girls in an abandoned warehouse he purchased under the runners.
Wow. This is
Mhm.
crazy.
Now we see where the herpes thing comes from, right?
Everything came
Daddy
from the
was
book.
Daddy was helping run a sex trafficking ring and kept a large amount of girls in an abandoned warehouse he purchased under a runner's name. I was so confused. He painted Daddy to be this monster, and for the most part, I felt like it was bullshit. But something in my gut, as crazy as it sounds, believed it. My behavior around Daddy began to change. I would I would jump when he'd moved his hand. Everything made me nervous. Those stories had me bugging. I started paying extra close attention to everything he did, said, his body language, just everything. I didn't take any of I didn't take any of the drugs he fed me anymore. I just faked it and spat it out when he wasn't looking. I took Ray's advice and no longer allowed him to fix my food. I didn't eat or drink I didn't eat or drink anything he gave me. Ray told me he had been drugging me and the majority of the time through food and drink. Do y'all hear this? Through
Yes.
food and drink. And that's why I was always so tired and blacked out so much. It was crazy, but now that I was paying attention and making changes, I did feel a lot better. I had plenty of energy and my thought process was and memory was spot on, unlike before. Thank you, honey. When I was with Daddy, I didn't stare at him like, who in the hell is this nigga man? I knew we fought before, but I also knew I was crazy as hell and had a mouth that would make a nigga want to slit my throat. I could really be a bitch when I wanted to be. But damn,
You disappeared.
I don't know what's going on with my phone. But can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. But damn, could he really be beating these bitches and locking them up? Nah, he couldn't be. But then again, This was the same man who knowingly gave me an incurable disease, showed no compassion, and told me to deal with it. I remember asking Ray if all this mess was true. How could he live with himself, basically helping this man kidnap and abuse young girls and women? Some things are easy to get into and harder to get out of. Your daddy has some pretty dangerous gang affiliations, and niggas really do come up missing behind a lot of this shit.
That's
But
what
mama,
that girl,
yep, yep,
with
yep,
the
yep, yep,
Rolex.
yep. My mama always to told me to ease my way out of the lion's mouth. Yep, you see the gang affiliation come up missing.
Yeah, that's the
If I
same.
mhm. If I took nothing else from my time with Ray, those words were imprinted in my mind. Always ease your way out of a lion's mouth. I had no idea that conversation would be my last with Ray. I never saw him again. And when I asked Daddy what happened to him, he never answered me. I can't sleep if I woke up from what I felt like the best nap ever. Daddy always drained and put me to sleep. I went to use the restroom, ignoring his latest odd request for me urinating in a bowl. What? Urinating in a bowl, I'm sorry. I thought it was ridiculous, and he knew from past experiences when I had my mind made up about something, there was no changing it. I yawned and rubbed my eyes and stretched my body out. It was quiet, so I figured Daddy left. I went on to tackle some usual shower routine, brush my teeth, wash my face, hair, the drill. After my shower, amid me brushing my teeth, Daddy appeared. He hugged me from behind and kissed me gently on the shoulder and neck and cheeks. He told me how beautiful I was and how lucky he was to have me. He always knew what to say to make me blush or smile. I turned around to hug him, but I noticed he looked a little different. If there's one thing I know about Daddy, it's that he hides behind those shades. I went for the glasses and he stopped me, but I snatched them off anyway. When I looked in his eyes, I could tell he had been crying. He immediately hung his head low. It's crazy, but when it came to him, my motherly instincts instantly kicked in. I always wanted to protect him at all costs. With his face in the palm of my hand, I lifted his head and kissed him 100 times. I could taste the salt from his tears, but I didn't care. He was hurting, and that meant I was hurting too. I didn't know what was wrong, but I never forced him to talk. I understood it was hard for him to open up, but I knew when he was ready, he would. He hugged me so tight, I thought he'd break my ribs, but I knew he needed me. I just rubbed him gently and told him I was there and that I wasn't going anywhere. He picked me up and took me to the bed. We made love. He made love to me, and during, he cried. I wanted to know what was on his mind so bad, but I just wiped his tears and let him have me any way he wanted. Afterwards, we laid there quietly watching the ceiling fan. After about 10 minutes, he finally began to talk. He told me he was scared. He told me it had been a long time had felt how he he had felt how he felt about me, about anyone. He told me he knew that what I thought about him and all these women, but he honestly had no feelings attached. He said the greatest fear is being alone. So he's been trying to fill this void, but it seems like no matter how many women he's had, it's never filled. But then there's you. He told me I challenged him. He didn't You don't let me just do anything and everything to you. You're strong and I can be myself with you. He accepted me for everything that I am, and you never judged me or made me feel bad. Baby girl, I feel like I'm falling in love with you, and I'm scared. I'm scared you'll leave, and I know I can't handle it if you do. I can't even sleep unless I'm near you. I know you're near. I was in shock. I didn't know what to say. He wanted me to promise him that I'd always stay no matter what. He told me he was ready to go all the way with me, but would I stay even if he fucked up? I told him I would, and it kills me sitting here reliving this moment because I did leave. But anyway, he fell asleep lying on my chest, and I just watched him. It was then that I realized I was falling in love with this man. I didn't give a damn about the rumors. I didn't give a damn about his problems. I just loved him. I was in love with him, barely breathing. The next few months were interesting. Daddy had been talking marriage a lot and drilling me with a million and one what if scenarios. I guess I was excited about it too, but I can't lie. Him keeping me separate from those chicks didn't make me forget they existed. I wanted them gone. If he wanted to go all the way with me, I felt I should have been all he needed. I don't know when he'd see them or even where they were, but I just knew he wasn't done with them. I remember waking up feeling real bitchy one day. I had something called PPMD. So I have serious ass mood swings right before that time of the month. But I woke up feeling really bitchy, showered, did my thing, and got back in bed. I don't know where the hell he was, but it was probably best he wasn't around me because I was in a sour ass mood, and out of nowhere, I just started wondering where those bitches were. Was he still sleeping with them? Was he still seeing them? Would I have to deal with them throughout our marriage? Was that what he meant by even if he fucked up? My thoughts were racing, and I became angry. In the midst of my racing thoughts, Daddy FaceTimed me. Oddly, his timing was always in sync with my thoughts. His face lit up when he saw me. I could tell he was in the studio by the background. He asked me if I was okay and if I needed anything. I told him I was and that I didn't. He asked if I was sure I was okay, and I told him yes. He said okay. He just wanted to check on me and he loved me. I just hung up. 40 minutes later, he was waking me up with kisses. I asked what was he doing back so early. I honestly thought he was going to be in the studio all night, and he said, "What kind of man would I be if I didn't know when something wasn't right with my baby?" I can't lie. Him saying that made me smile, but my thoughts were running wild. He sat down and signaled for me to come sit on his lap. I did, and he asked what was on my mind. I instantly started crying. My tears were like waterfalls, and I never forget how overprotective and angry he got. He thought someone had did something to me or said something crazy. I told him that wasn't it. So he calmed down and said in the softest voice, "Well, baby, tell daddy what's wrong. You know you can talk to me." I looked him in the eyes and called him by his first name, and I never do that. But I asked him if he was still seeing those girls. He laughed and was infuriated. He was like, "Calm down, Rocky. Is that what you're worried about?" I told him yes. I told him I didn't want to share him with anybody anymore. I told him I wanted them gone. I told him I wouldn't be with him if he didn't get rid of them. I told him I couldn't. He separated himself from me while rolling his eyes, said he was leaving because I was tripping. I just sat there looking dumbfounded because I couldn't believe he was really giving me the cold shoulder over this. When he left, he slammed the door so hard it felt like the floor rumbled. I knew he was pissed. I just started crying again. My thoughts continued to race, but now I was thinking, damn, did I fuck up? Maybe I should have just let shit flow. Maybe I shouldn't have said anything. But then there was that voice that was like, don't you dare feel guilty for knowing your worth and putting your foot down. Don't you dare compromise your happiness for him. Don't you dare. Daddy didn't come back that night, nor the next day or night, nor the next. He didn't call either, not even text. If I was any other bitch, perhaps I would have called him. But I'm me, and not even this nigga could cut my pride down to the point where I'd call his ass when I knew I was right. Anytime even thought about I even thought about it, I just replayed his tears in my mind and that conversation we had in bed. He wanted me, he loved me, he's pissed, but he'll come around. So I went about my days as normal. I worked out, I read books, I found a dance class to attend and I did my thing. Day in and day out. I left and returned to my suite with no issue. I even took myself shopping and got me a swimsuit. Found myself hitting the pool late night one night. I was missing him like crazy. I can't lie, but I figured maybe a late night swim could clear my mind. It didn't though. I kept thinking about how good he was probably looking on somebody's basketball court right now. Daddy loved to play ball at night and he was damn good at it. Ugh, tighten up, I told myself. I got out the pool, dried off, and enjoyed the breeze hitting my cheeks as I walked back to the room in my bikini. When I entered the room, there he was, and he was pissed. I saw an empty bottle of Hennessy on the table next to me, next to a melting cup of ice. My heart skipped a beat. I don't know why, but I was terrified. I could tell he had been drinking, and the look in his eyes was even more anger. It was more than anger. I could tell he had something else in his system as well. Three things Daddy liked for certain: pussy, a stiff drink, and his drugs. He looked at me and said, "You know what fucking time it is?" But before I could blink, he rushed me and lifted me clean off the ground by my throat. He snatched a towel from me and hit me repeatedly asking what the fuck was my problem. Who the fuck did I think I was playing? What the fuck I had on and who was I fucking? You think I'm one of these dumbass cats? What the fuck you take me for? Huh? Who the fuck you been with? You know I don't play that shit. I couldn't breathe, so I just knew he could have realistically expected me to speak. But he did, because the next thing you know, he squeezed my throat harder and said, "Answer me, bitch." I just cried. He slapped me so hard I temporarily went blind in one eye. He ripped off my thong and threw me on the bed. With one hand, he held me down, and with the other, he checked my pussy. I couldn't believe him. I just remember thinking, wow, you disappear on me for days and don't call, but you check in to see if I have been unfaithful? Nigga, I should be checking your dick. The nerve of him. After he was done with his stupid ass finger check, it should come as no surprise what he did next. Yes, he fucked me. I remember how painful it was when he shoved it in. He fucked me with what felt like hours. Picture, moans, pussy compliments, threats combined. He cussed me out the entire time, telling me what I better not do or what he'd do if I did this or that. Let me find out. He kept saying that shit. By dawn, he had nutted in me 3 times and passed out with his dick still inside of me. He was snoring so loud in my damn ear, I couldn't think straight. And I could feel his dick fluctuating from soft to hard all night. By the time the sun came up, I had to pee so bad, and I wanted his heavy ass off of me, but he woke up with a rock hard dick. I literally felt it grow and fill my walls as he started moaning and fucked me again. His whole body shook as he fed me long strokes, whispering in my ear how good my pussy was and how he was gonna beat my pussy every morning for life. I was disgusted. I don't mean it. After the sex was over, I was finally able to run to the restroom. My bladder felt like it was about to explode. Rob yelled from the room, "Pee in that cup on the sink." I looked over my shoulder in disgust and rolled my eyes. Fuck it, I thought. He act like he's gonna drink this shit or something. Hell, I don't even care anymore. If he wants fucking urine, I'll give it to him. So yeah, y'all, as crazy as it sounds, I just peed in that damn cup. He's been asking me for months, and I just finally did. I put the cup on the sink when I was done and caught a glimpse of my face. Daddy walked in right as the surprise and anger and pain began to register on my face. I couldn't believe it. I've been in a million street fights and never left with a scratch. Now here I was, my face swollen, black and blue, lip cut, eyes black. I couldn't stop the tears from falling. Look at my face, I was screaming inside. My beautiful face. Look what he did to me. My whole body started to tremble. Once I got past looking at my own reflection in the mirror, I set my eyes on him. Before I could utter a word, he fell to his knees beside me, started crying and begging for forgiveness. He kept calling himself dumb, and he didn't know why he did it. Kept saying something about not being right in his head and always fucking up a good thing. Kept saying he didn't mean it. He even said he understood if I couldn't forgive him, but he couldn't forgive himself for what he did to me. I just stood there motionless in silence. I looked at his pathetic ass down there crying, and then I looked in the mirror at my face. I looked back at his insecure ass down there crying, and I looked in the mirror at my fucking face. Went back and forth between those two sights a few times. My mind was made up. Fuck him, fuck this hand in marriage, and fuck all this shit. I'm getting the fuck out of here, but I didn't utter one fucking word about how I felt. But I did manage to utter 4 words. Daddy, I forgive you. Half on a baby. Was everything cool now? Hell, fuck no. But I wasn't going to blow my cover at this point. Look how he overreacted about me being in my room after he abandoned me for days. Now I just had to play things cool and act normal. Hell, my plan was to act better than normal. It should come as no surprise he wanted more sex after I told him I forgave him. This man has he this man has the sexual libido of a fucking energizer bunny, and I gave it to him. I sucked his dick like my life depended on it. Kissing, licking, spitting, gripping, jacking. It's just how he liked it. I spit on his balls, put them in my mouth, made shit real messy. Daddy loved nasty shit like that. He likes when you're confident, seductive, talk dirty, put in the work, and keep that shit wet and messy. And I was everything he liked, especially in that moment. I slowly slid his dick down my throat while still jacking and playing with his balls with my other hand. His moans grew louder and louder, and right when it felt like he was about to nut, I stopped. I got up and walked over to my gym bag. His face immediately looked pissed. When Daddy's in the mood, nothing else matters. So he wanted to know why the fuck I stopped. I said nothing, just grabbed the dildo from my gym bag, came back to the bed, and straddled him from the back. I couldn't stand the sight of him at the moment, but the sight of my ass bouncing around like I rode his dick would please him just as much as eye contact. I turned on the TV, and the sound of the buff men moaning seemed to roar loudly. I left the volume up, put him inside me, positioned the dildo in his ass, and went to work. He couldn't fucking take it. The way I rode dick always drove his ass crazy, and me voluntarily adding the anal play was driving him insane. I don't know whose moans were louder, mine, his, or the porn on TV. My pussy was so wet it was ridiculous. I have never said these 2 words so much in my life, y'all. I slow grind and bounced on his dick until he shook so hard I thought he was having a seizure. I'm gonna have to go repent after this. With his nuts still oozing from inside me, he flipped me over and made me hold my legs behind my head. I did as I was told, and he sucked every bit of that nut out of my pussy. He ate me until I felt like I couldn't breathe, kept calling me daddy's little freak. He kept saying he loved when I let her out and asking if I wanted more. He wanted me to say yes, so I did. He got up, put his dick back in me, and gave me more and more dick. My body shook, my pussy squirted repeatedly until we eventually passed out. When I woke up, Daddy was already up. From the looks of the steamy bathroom and towel wrapped around him, he'd already showered. He walked out glistening. At first glance, I noticed how hard his dick got when he looked at me. He gave me the look I knew what it meant. I fell to my knees and gave him what he needed. It didn't take long. When I got up, he kissed me and smacked me on my ass and told me to go get cleaned up. I had to shower with no hesitation. 20 minutes in my shower, he was yelling for me to get out because he was about to leave. I was nowhere near done, but I did what I was told and got out so I could kiss, hug, and compliment and embrace him before he left the studio. So that's where that kissing, you got to compliment him and kiss him. This is crazy. Daddy was big on acknowledgement. He let me know he probably wouldn't be back till the next day because he had a lot to get finished up. I nodded and said, okay. He grabbed my face, kissed me passionately while grabbing my ass. I think I screamed. I was so confused. My mind was saying, leave his abusive ass. My body always yearned for him, and my heart still loved him. Suddenly, we heard a few of his crew at the door telling him it was time. I could tell they probably had already been sipping or something. I needed some of whatever they had, but Daddy yelled out to give him 10 minutes. From there, he cuffed my ass and picked me up and gave me head for at least 5 minutes before I squirted everywhere. No matter how angry I was with him or how hurt I was by him, he knew my body and she loved him. He laid me down on the bed and sucked my nipples while undressing from the waist down and took 10 of the deepest strokes in me he could ever imagine. And with a tight grip around my throat, he told me he loved me. It was so good I cried. He wiped tears from my eyes. He wiped my tears, kissed me, and told me that we were going to be all right. And with the blink of an eye, his pants were up and he was out the door. At this point, my mind was playing tricks on me. I paced the floor back and forth, back and forth. I didn't know what I wanted to do anymore. Was I really about to leave or not? If I was, there was no time to spare. I had to do it tonight. That stunt he pulled before I left kept playing over and over in my mind. Fuck, I needed it to stop looping. I had to get out, I told myself. I had to train myself to think about the bad, not the good, nor the sex. There wasn't as many bad times, but they were severe enough to put a stop to things now. This was only going to get worse, and just like that, I finalized my decision and packed my bags. Is that baby, 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 baby. Being back at Grandma's house felt good. I was at peace, felt safe and loved. There was no arguing back and forth, backhand slaps, just me and my Nana. I never forget the look of horror on her face when I showed up with my bags. She cried, asking me what happened. I cried while holding my head down in shame and lying to her. I told her a crazed fan attacked me at one of Daddy's shows, and I was upset with him for not having me better protected and allowing it to happen. I remember her telling me, oh, baby, you can't be mad with him forever about this. It comes with the life. That wasn't his fault. I knew she was right, but if she only knew the half of what was really going on. I just nodded my head and told her she was right. Then I asked if I could come home anyway, and she welcomed me with open arms. As the weeks went by, I found my face fully healed and back to normal. I was back to jogging every day and just overall feeling better about myself. I never realized how much I missed home cooked meals until I had one. With Daddy, everything was takeout. However, the oddest thing happened one day when I asked my Nana to make my favorite. I don't know what it was. The food tasted good, but for some reason I couldn't hold it down. I wasn't sure at first of what I was feeling, but when my mouth began to fill with saliva, I knew, and I ran to the bathroom. I threw up everywhere. I was so confused. I was never the vomiting type. After I got the bathroom all cleaned up, I excused myself and told Nana I wasn't feeling well. I went to my room and laid down. I couldn't stop thinking about what had just happened. Why the hell did I just throw up? Then it hit me like a lightning bolt, and I sat up in bed. It had been 4 months since I seen Rob. We never used any protection, and more often than not, he nutted inside me. Oh my God, I was going to be sick. I can't be pregnant. I just can't be. I quickly jumped out of bed, went to my dresser, and grabbed a test from my top drawer. Me and my girls always used to grab a bunch from the dollar store, joking about never knowing when we may need it. Fuck, why did I have to need it? Waiting those few minutes for the results were the scariest minutes of my life. I still love Daddy, but a baby? I wasn't ready for kids, nor did I want him to have a for sure link to me for life. I was loving my freedom, being back home, having a peace of mind. In the midst of my thoughts, I looked over and saw both those fucking lines. Fuck.
Hey, that was Lisa Van Allen right there.
Yep. hmm I ran to my room and cried. I cried for an entire hour. Why, God? Why? You saw him beat me. You know what I just ran away from. Why you let me be pregnant? I just couldn't stop the tears. I was terrified. I'm no killer. I didn't want to abort the baby, but how could I have? I hadn't talked to Daddy since I left. When I got to my grandma's house, I powered down my phone, tucked it in a drawer, and hadn't touched it since. I didn't know what to do. I don't want to tell him. He'll make me keep it for sure, I thought. Hell, I didn't even want to talk to him. And then he walked in. Come to Daddy. I almost pissed myself when I saw him. I closed my eyes real hard and opened them to make sure I wasn't dreaming. What the fuck was he doing here after 4 months? I thought for sure maybe he'd got forgotten about me by now. Wouldn't this have been something he just he did just a few days or maybe a week after I left? I mean, just what the fuck was he doing here? And then his spell started to hit me. He smelled so good. He had a fresh cut, dressed in all black, looking dapper, draped in his Cuban link with his cigar in his mouth. He looked at me and smirked, handing me a huge bouquet of pink roses. He said, "Hey, baby, Daddy miss you." I wiped my tears and trembled a little as I said, "Hey, Daddy." He told me not to be scared and come give him a hug. It was funny he said that because I was terrified, but I figured I was safe at my grandma's house. She loved him and thought he was a total angel, so I knew he wouldn't act up here. I got up, gave him a big hug. I know it sounds crazy, but I always melt in his arms. It felt so good lying on his chest, and then I just bawled and cried my eyes out. I know y'all are probably thinking, damn, this bitch is always crying. But y'all have no idea how much turmoil I was going through on the inside. I love this man. I mean, I really, really love this man with all of me. And now I knew I was carrying his child, but I couldn't even be happy about it because of what we were going through. I just wanted him to be right. I didn't want to fight. I didn't want his anger and misunderstandings to end in violence. I didn't want to be the main one. I just wanted to be his only one. I was all over the place. He had me so torn. As I cried, he just rubbed my hair and kept kissing me, saying, "Baby, it's okay. Daddy missed you too." He had no idea what I was really thinking. I asked him what took him so long to come and get me. He told me he called me a million times, but I never answered. And it started saying the voicemail was full. He told me he left tons of messages, and I figured this was probably true. I powered my phone off and tossed it since day one of my return home. He told me he thought I didn't love him anymore. And I remember crying, telling him I couldn't never stop loving you, Rob. Never. Then he asked the question I had been dreading. So why did you leave me? He looked serious and pissed. He began to shudder a little and said, "You really hurt me. I thought we were in this together. You promised me you'd never leave, even if I fucked up. So why?" I just stood there quiet. I put my head down. I didn't know what to say. And the inside I was screaming, "You hurt me. No, I'm hurt. And you promised me you'd never hurt me. But you did. I don't want you hitting me because you're mad. I'm not your punching bag. I'm not a punching bag. And I don't want you disappearing on me because you're mad or tripping on me because I want you to myself." But instead, all I could get out was, "I don't know." He had no idea it hurt me more to leave him than it probably hurt him finding out I was gone. This shit was a mess. I put the roses down on the table and I noticed he locked my room door behind him. I knew what he wanted. He backed me in a corner and started to strip me while staring in my eyes. I told him I didn't feel comfortable with my nana in the next room. He told me she met him outside when he was pulling up and she was going to the store for a few hours. Relieved to hear, breathing hard and doped up on lust, I helped him take my clothes off. I went for his pants and he stopped me, told me he was running this show. He bent me over the bed, spread my ass cheeks, and stuck his face in me. He ate it so good, my pussy and my ass. He smacked my ass, kissed and sucked my ass cheeks. It didn't take long to cream. I felt him stop and started to look behind me. But he instructed me to close my eyes and stay looking forward. I did as I was told. He told me to arch my back and I put my hands behind me. I did as I was told. The next thing I knew, he cuffed and blindfolded me. He spanked me and told me I had been a bad girl. It hurt like hell, but I liked it. Did it say spank? Yeah. Wow. Then he slid his dick in nice and slow. My pussy was tight. It gripped Daddy just right. He started to moan as soon as he got the head in. Kept saying how warm and tight it was. He started off slow, then sped up. If I moved out of position, he spanked me and instructed me to arch my back deeper and deeper. My juices were everywhere, and I was so turned on. I loved how he took control. I loved it when he was forceful with me in bed. He kept whispering this was Daddy's pussy, and I threw it back. I moaned that it was. Um, and he nutted. It was so warm. I felt it oozing down my thighs when he pulled out. I thought he was finished, but he smacked his dick against my ass, grabbed me by the cuffs, and put him back in. It was like something got into him and he was crazy in it. It was so good I couldn't catch my breath. I missed Daddy's dick so much. He shook uncontrollably inside of me. He went so deep it hurt a little, but I didn't stop him. I took every inch. I took every thrust. Fuck, I was so moist. I just started screaming, fuck me, Daddy. And he was like, you want Daddy to fuck you? I screamed, yes. It was so fucking good. I didn't want him to stop. Something about the way he grinded in it. Something about the way he smacked my ass and played with my clit while going deep. Something about his voice while he whispered dirty shit to me. If I could be a bitch at any time, was while he fucked me. I love when he told me I was his bitch and called me Daddy's little freak. I love when he owned me. But wait. He slowed it down and went stroke for stroke, questioning me. You love Daddy? Yes, I moaned. You miss Daddy? Oh, yes, Daddy. Whose pussy is this? Daddy's. Who? Daddy's, I screamed. You coming home with Daddy? Yes, Daddy. We're going to have this problem again? He spanked me. No, Daddy. No, I can't hear you. We're going to have this problem again? He spanked me harder. No, Daddy. Where you belong? Fuck, I couldn't even think straight. The dick was so damn good. I said where you belong. He yelled to me as he spanked me with Daddy, moaning with Daddy. Turn over and put your hands above your head, he whispered. Still cuffed. I did as I was told. He just walked around with handcuffs. I did as I was told. He kissed me and I stuck my tongue in his mouth, kissed him back and bit his lips a little while he removed the blindfold. He got on top of me and put his dick in my mouth. Then he released. I felt warm babies going down my throat. I swallowed every drop. He ran his dick over my hips, my tits, and played in my juices as he stuck it back in. He whispered to me he couldn't get enough and we had to leave ASAP because before he really lost it and my grandma came home. He couldn't stop. He said he needed all of me and he wanted me round for round. I remember giggling and asking him how could we leave with him still inside me? He moaned and stroked and then I couldn't stop my moans either. There was no stopping us. I wrapped my legs around him and threw this pussy all the way back. His moans got louder and louder. He started screaming fuck in my name. He had never done that before. And then I heard my nana scream, fuck. It's time for y'all to go home. I never saw him pull out so fast. We jumped like two kids getting caught hunching and died laughing. He yelled out, sorry, Mom, and told me to pack my bags. He said just to grab anything I absolutely needed, and we could buy the rest later. I did as I was told. We came out the room hand in hand, smiling. My Nana was pleased. Who was I fooling? I was pleased too. It was like I gave him a clean slate. I had no idea of the fate that awaited me upon my return. Daddy quickly made his truck a sex scene. I didn't think we got halfway down the block before he wanted head and for me to ride him. One thing for sure, I never denied him. I suppose his molding in that area was successful. As many times as he's get hard, it was my job as his woman to handle it. That's what Daddy taught me, and that's what I did. When a woman's fed up. Upon returning, things were great, or so I thought, until about 3 hours into our evening. Everything was fine, and then it's like it just snapped. He just snapped. He turned to me and started yelling. He grabbed me, choked me, slapped me, beat me until I blacked out. To this day, all I remember is him calling me a stupid bitch and screaming about me leaving him. It was like a child having a violent tantrum, and I just remember crying, thinking, I thought we were good. I thought everything was fine. I woke up in shock. I don't know how long I had been out for, but it felt like it had been just happened. I was in so much pain. My stomach was killing me. I went to rub it for a comfort and realized I was tied to the bed. I tried everything to get loose, but the cuffs were digging in my skin. They were so tight. I was there for hours. It was the most degrading experience of my life. Here I was in all this pain, bleeding, and pretty sure I was miscarrying right in the bed. I held my bladder so long, eventually I just peed on myself. I was starving and nauseated at the same time. I was able to turn over slightly to keep from choking on my vomit, and my mouth was so dry. He didn't even leave me water, Jesus. I just remember thinking that this was it, and I was going to die right there in that bed. And I almost did. Dr. Smith told me when he was called there, I had been tied for 3 days, was covered in blood, piss and vomit, and unconscious. He told me they said Rob freaked out and called him from a McDonald's. Can you believe that? This nigga flipped out after finding what possibly could have been my dead body and went to grab a double cheeseburger. Dr. Smith said he knew immediately that I had miscarried, and Rob was, of course, shocked because he didn't know there was a baby. But nevertheless, Dr. Smith said he let him know I had to get to a hospital ASAP if I was going to survive. Do you know, they told me he kept saying no, afraid of what I would say when I woke up. But this was the man I loved, ladies and gentlemen, this selfish fucking bastard. Thankfully, Dr. Smith already had an ambulance on the way, ignored Rob, and rushed me to the ER. Anyway, I owed him my life, truly. Upon regaining consciousness, I recall waking up to this ugly older black chick. She really had a distinctive face. When she began to speak, her Jamaican accent was strong. She told me not to say a word, and Rob wanted to talk to me as soon as I woke up. Who the fuck are you? She claimed to be my new caretaker hired by Rob. The hell she wasn't. Before I could verbalize that, Dr. Smith came in and greeted me. He was very nice. He asked her to leave the room so he could discuss some private things with me about my condition. The bitch acted like she didn't want to move. Rob said she needed to know everything. He urged her several times before she got the picture. That's when he shared with me everything that happened and told me I had to get away from Rob. What if next time you aren't so lucky? I was speechless. I mean, what could I say? He was right. He told me he had 2 daughters my age, and he'd kill a man dead for doing what Daddy was doing to me. I just laid there quiet. Was herpes enough? Not enough? You know, he knew he had that, right? Do you know how many girls I witnessed have the exact same moment with him? For God's sake, he just killed your child. I beg you, please let me help you. I just laid there crying and told him I loved him. It was at that moment I realized just how fucked up I was, just how fucked up all this shit was. This man had, in fact, just beat our baby out of me, been drugging me, having me recruit other girls to sleep with, allowed another man to sleep with me, had a house full of brainwashed girlfriends, and here I was refusing help because I loved him. Wow. I look back now and wonder how I got so lost. How did I ever lose myself in this man to this extent? Dr. Smith gave me his personal phone number. He told me to memorize it and use it. He told me he'd come get me himself. That made me feel better, at least knowing I had someone I could call. In the mix of the emotions, the hired help returned with Daddy on the phone. He wanted to talk to me. I put the phone to my ear and sat there quietly. He began to cry. He apologized. He said he loved me a million times and how he was going to kill himself if I would have been dead because he wouldn't have been able to live with himself. I killed our baby. I hate myself. Oh God, I didn't know. I just sat there shaking my head. He was sick. He was really fucking sick or severely full of shit. Started saying he was going to make shit up to me when they let me come home. You coming home to Daddy, right? I should have said no. I should have went to the police right then and there, but instead I thought about my grandmother, my cousin, and all the people he threatened to kill if I ever left him for real. I had to be smart about things. Then I thought about Ray. Always ease myself out of the lion's mouth. So I told him yes, but something in me died that day. I didn't feel the same. I wasn't the same. He had slowly taken bits and pieces of me, but he left me hollow this time. I could barely walk upon my return, and Rob still nowhere to be found. We'll call this old caretaker lady Stank Winch. Every damn day she was there. I didn't like this bitch, man. When Dr. Smith would come check on me, it was everything. I had grown fond of him, especially since he displayed genuine concern. Everything about Stank Witch gave me chills. It was like pure evil. I felt like she walked around with a dark cloud over her, and I didn't want y'all to think I was just being difficult. Trust me, I wasn't. It was just something that wasn't right, man. When she served me food, I refused to eat it. I kept playing Ray's voice over and over in my head. It was one thing not to trust Rob with my food, but I really didn't trust this bitch. So I only ate what Dr. Smith brought me. A few weeks flew by and then your favorite artist finally decided to show his fucking face. I guess being in bed and hearing his voice in the hall, he was asking how I was and where I was. Was I? Because he wanted to see me. When I heard footsteps, I quickly closed my eyes and played sleep. I felt him sit down on the bed beside me and rub my face. He leaned in and kissed my forehead and said he was sorry and he loved me. His voice cracked when he said it, and as if he was going to cry or something. He said he had never meant to hurt me and that he loved me more than anything. He couldn't just understand why he was so fucked up. He said he knew I didn't love him anymore, but he'd never stopped loving me, and he pleaded with God to make me still love him and give him another chance. I wish I could have played sleep longer, but I coughed and moved around. My eyes opened as a reflex, and there he was smiling at me. Hi, baby girl. How you feeling? I stared for a few and then faintly responded, Hey, Daddy. He gave me this grand speech about love and how he knows God sent him his wife and me because we had been through too much and I was still by his side through all of this. I just remember looking at him, but seeing the devil in rare form with his horns out. I laid there quietly until I eventually dozed off from my meds. I remember waking up and it being after dark. The digital clock on the dresser read 2:38. I never forget it. Then I remember trying to get out of bed myself to go to the restroom, so I limped my way down the hall. I saw one of the doors cracked. It looked like candles were lit and I heard voices. When I peeked in, I saw Daddy and Stank Winch. There were candles lit, and I swear it looked like they were having a fucking seance or something, or some shit. I heard her ask him something about my essence. He wanted to know how he could make me stay. She asked if he had been making me pee in the cup like she asked. I couldn't, but I could have fucking passed out. I remember thinking, what the fuck is this? Some voodoo shit? And it was. Who knew the whole time Rob had been collecting fucking body fluids for me to give to this crazy ass lady? Shit felt like a crazy lifetime. Shit felt like a crazy lifetime movie. Something in the room fell and I moved my ass as fast as I could to get to that bathroom. Daddy came in after me and asked if I needed help. I thought about him collecting urine and said no. Of course, he helped anyway. He cleaned me up and helped me back to bed. Then, instead of leaving, he cuddled up to me and sang to me until I fell asleep. Everything was so messed up. I could never see him the same after all this shit. And the more I observed and found out, the harder it was for me to act normal around him. I didn't know how I was going to get out of this, but my goal was to get the fuck out. My patience had worn thin, and I had no more sympathy for his tears. Time passed, and I was back 100%, and we were back to having stupid ass arguments. Daddy controlling behavior had hit next level. Now he had strict set of rules I was to follow, which affected everything down to my body language and style of dress. He was so paranoid these days, I didn't fucking get it. Felt like my clothes weren't good enough anymore. He wanted me to wear baggy sweats and clothes that hid my shape.
Wow. I just came back to listen.
Ain't that crazy?
I just came back to
Wow.
listen. I stepped away for a while.
He wanted me to wear hats in order me to look down and not make eye contact with
This
anyone.
is the book.
He had cameras installed and wanted me to be watched at all times. Shit got real spooky. I just didn't understand why he was so fucking insecure. Nothing was worse than him cuffing me to the bed every night. His excuse is the only way he could sleep comfortably, knowing I wasn't going anywhere, and that this was both when he slept with me and didn't. It was pure torture, but this was my life. I dealt with a year of this extreme restriction before. Enough was a fucking enough. Kissing him disgusted me. Sex with him disgusted me. His voice. At this point, everything about him fucking disgusted me. I remember the last straw was one night we got into a huge fight because I refused to be cuffed to bed to before bed, and that was it. I wasn't scared anymore. I was back to myself and I was fighting back. Daddy told Stank Winch to hold me down. I kicked him in the nuts as hard as I could and hit her over the head with a vase. I was wild. I didn't give a fuck. I was done. And I was getting the fuck out of there. Dr. Smith was already waiting in the spot we discussed to come get me, and then gave me even more courage to fight back like hell. All I could think about was getting back to Grandma's. When I opened that door, I ran and never looked back. Henny, are you still there? I had to get something to drink.
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, will you start right there for me? Real
Yep.
quick? Okay.
I wish, right?
Yes.
I was terrified and I couldn't stop crying. Normally, I would have thought to clean myself up and put on this fake smile when on my way back to Grandma's, but I was prepared to tell her everything. She was the only thing I had that was genuine and real in this world. I needed to be honest with her about all that I'd been through. I knew she would never judge me nor steer me wrong. When I got to Grandma's, I knocked for 20 minutes with no answer. Her car was in the driveway, so I figured maybe she was asleep or couldn't hear me. She always kept the spare key in the backyard under the flower pot. So I grabbed it and let myself in. The house was so quiet you could hear a creak. I called for my grandma but got no response. I checked all the rooms but she wasn't there. In the dining room, I saw a huge envelope with my name on it on the table next to a new vase. I guess my grandmother had got, so I figured I'd kill time until she got back by reading my mail. The contents of the envelope changed my life forever, and this still remains the worst day of my life. In my abuse, my grandmother had passed. She left me the car, the house, a huge lump sum, and some very expensive items in a safe deposit box. From what I read, they tried contacting me for weeks and even spoke with my boyfriend, but never heard back from me. A distinct relative advised them to leave it on the table because they knew I'd eventually return. Can you imagine my pain? My grandma, the only person I had in this world, the only person who loved me, I didn't even get to see her and say goodbye. And I was so caught up in the this mess with Rob that I never called home, and now she's gone. I couldn't stop the tears. I didn't give a damn about a house, a car, or any of that shit. I wanted my grandma. I was so fucking hurt. I'm still hurt. But then the hurt turns to anger every time I think about the fact that this nigga knew. He knew when she got sick. He knew when they admitted her in the hospital. He knew when she passed, when they buried her. He knew every fucking thing but told me nothing. I hated him for this. Was it not enough that you beat me and slowly turned me into this person I don't even recognize? Was it not enough that you gave me this disease that I have to live with until the day I close my eyes? Was it not enough you killed our unborn child? Was it not enough? You had to take her from me too, right? My thoughts were racing fast. I felt sick. I had to get out of there. Heaven, I need a hug. I couldn't bear to look at myself, at what I'd become. I didn't know this person, nor did I want to. I needed to stay clean and not, no, not from the drugs, but from him. He was the only addiction I couldn't kick. I needed to find my way back to Jesus. I was so ashamed of myself, I oftentimes didn't pray. How could I talk to God knowing the things I was doing and a part of? After 5 long years of the back and forth, I was finally ready to walk away for good. I didn't know how I would stop him from popping up to my grandma's, especially with me being alone now, or anything else for that matter. But right now, I don't care. I was just thankful to be free and away from that place chained like some kind of fucking animal. I took off as fast as possible and sped to the church I grew up in. I wasn't sure if my pastor would be there on a weekday, but I just needed to be in the presence of the Lord in this in the sanctuary. I needed to have a long talk with him. I did. I cried harder than I ever had. I hollered, I prayed, I called out to our Father's name and begged for his mercy and forgiveness. The things I witnessed and participated in was far more than I could ever have described in this book, and it was horrifying. I needed the Lord to forgive me. I needed to know I was still his child and that it wasn't too late to turn all of this around. I surrendered myself to God and vowed never to touch and abuse any legal substance again. I vowed to never go back to Rob, no matter what. I took a vow of celibacy and told God whatever path he saw fit was what I wanted for my life. I knew Rob would try to come get me. I knew he would. I knew he'd threaten me, and I knew his little gang affiliation could real life have me 6 feet under if he gave them the word. But I couldn't control that. All I could control was my actions and leave the rest to God. So I begged the Lord for strength to stand strong in my decisions and faith, even in the midst of temptation from the enemy. I had made so many mistakes, but I didn't want to make any more. I walked out of the church with a renewed mind. I knew all I had in this world was myself and God. I knew I was going to have to be even stronger than before. I didn't have my Nana there to save me anymore, which made me more vulnerable, but I vowed to be strong. If I did anything, it wasn't going to be fall weak and run back to him. God is the only man I need. I felt that then and I know that now. And then was who know and then those who know of us always ask, if I could do it again, would I? Can you hold on one sec? Are you back, Tanya?
Yes, where are we?
If I could
Okay.
turn back the hands of time.
Okay. Would you want to relive this hell? Would you want your mind fucked to this would you I'm sorry, would you want your mind fucked to this extent? I'm not normal because of the fucked up shit I've been through. I deal with guilt, pain, anger, and hatred every day. And it's mostly hatred toward myself because I can't understand why, after all the shit he's done to me, I still love him. I can't understand why I'm so fucked up in the head that I can love someone like that. Someone who did these things to me. Someone who truly loves you wouldn't hurt you. Someone who truly loves you wouldn't isolate you. Someone who truly loves you wouldn't want to share you with anyone. You alone would be enough for someone who truly loves you, but not for him. No one will ever be enough for him, and he can never truly love anyone because he doesn't love himself. And I have to cope with knowing that I love a nigga this cold, that I chased him and pursued this hell. I did it. I have to accept the fact that I allowed him to control and manipulate me. I have to take ownership for all those fucked up decisions. Then it gets me to thinking, why do we hold on to people who deep down where we are unhappy with? Why do we sacrifice happiness elsewhere to stay with where we don't fit? Why do we allow ourselves to be belittled and mistreated? Why do we know better but don't do better? Why is it so hard to let go? When does it end? I have to find a way to deal with the memories that won't leave my mind, but both good and bad. I have to deal with seeing shit about him and hearing shit about him everywhere I go. I live in fear of the things he'd do because he has people watch me until even till this day. My house, my social media accounts. I even been followed while driving. Boyfriends I've tried to have since him have mysteriously disappeared or been beaten up and stopped dealing with me. No one understands the constant reminders I live with. So for me, it's a no. I wouldn't. My apologies. For those of you who are reading this, because you know exactly who this is about, and I want to take a full walk. And I want you, wait a minute, okay, I'm gonna start over. For those of you who are reading this, because you know exactly who this is about, and wanted to take a full walk in my shoes with this experience, I apologize. I gave what I could and tried to be as descriptive as possible with the incidents I could remember in full details. I didn't want to focus on dates, locations, and others involved as much as the types of things I experienced during this relationship. I wanted it to be real for you. I wanted it to feel real to you. I wanted you to feel like you were there, but there's no way I could possibly give you the entire 5 years. What I have sounds like a full motion picture, even to me. So imagine the full 5 years. We had so many ups and downs. There was a lot of craziness, a lot of laughs, and even more tears. I'm not really an author, and I was never that good in English class. So also forgive me for any typos and errors. I'm sorry if I was all over the place, but that's kind of how my feelings are. Even now, one minute I hate him, and then I may think of some of the times and smile. It's an emotional roller coaster daily for me. It took a lot for me to put this online. I was so scared. I didn't even publish it under my name. That alone should say a lot. For those of you who may have been insulted or repulsed by the amount of graphic sexual content or constant use of profanity, I apologize. I'm an extremely blunt person. I'm still young and I'm just an around the way girl. I'm not published I'm not published public I'm not a published public figure, and I all I know is how women. That doesn't make sense. I'm no published public figure, and all I know how to do is give it to you raw and uncut. For anyone I may have offended, I apologize. The end, ladies. I think I should read that part again. My apologies. I'm going to do it one more time. For those of you who are reading this, because you know exactly who this is about and want to take a full walk in my shoes with this experience, I apologize. I gave what I could and tried to be as descriptive as possible with the incidents I could remember in full detail. I didn't want to focus on dates, locations, and others involved as much as the type of things that I experienced during this relationship. I wanted it to feel real to you. I wanted you to feel like you were there, but there's no way I could possibly give you the entire 5 years. What I have sounds like a full motion picture, even to me. So imagine the full 5 years. We had so many ups and downs. There was a lot of craziness, a lot of laughs, and even more tears. I'm not really an author, and I was never that good in English class. So also forgive me for any typos and errors. I'm sorry if I was all over the place, but that's kind of how my feelings are. Even now, one minute I hate him, and then I may think of some of the good times and smile. It's an emotional roller coaster daily for me. It took a lot for me to put this online. I was so scared. I didn't even publish it under my name. That alone says a lot. For those of you who may have been insulted or repulsed by the amount of graphic sexual content or constant use of profanity, I apologize. I'm an extremely blunt person. I'm still young and I'm just an around the way girl. I'm not I'm not published public author, and all I know how to do is give it to you raw and uncut. For anyone I may have offended, I apologize. The end, ladies and gentlemen.
Look, you see, they said the 5 years, and she was not with Robert for 5 years.
Wait a minute.
Not Asriel.
So
Yeah,
yeah, I want
that's
you to feel like
this
you're
whole
you're
dang
saying
thing
it.
was crazy. I
Watch the
can't
pieces
believe
of
how
that
much
book.
it was just like the dang surviving R. Kelly.
That's what everything came from that book.
It sure did. I see it all now. That's crazy. It just they had different girls play different
Part.
took different parts out
But
of
see,
it.
the thing is, okay, when I not until I went to court, I realized. I mean, I've had this book since 2019. I had this book since 2019, but I never actually like paid attention to it. Somebody regave it to me again. What's up, Travel the World? Hello? Hello? Travel the World. Okay.
I think she's trying to come in.
No, she's in already. It may not be her. Say something else, or else I'm gonna remove you. It may not be her because she would have said something by now.
Well, the phone kept going. It was like her mic was muting and coming on.
Mm-mm. No, we don't hear you. She said she's talking. You might have to go out and come back in. I'm gonna kick you out and come back in. But I'm about to go to bed, guys. I gotta get up in the next 3 hours for prayer. Good night, everybody. Can y'all hear me? Why y'all muted?
Yeah, yes. Okay.
That was the
I
only
think she's
way to
coming.
not be an echo and not interrupt is to mute.
No, you good. Oh, I'm sleepy. I'm about to go to sleep. Cause I gotta get up for prayer.
Oh, she's trying to come in. What'd she say?
Yes, ma'am.
Huh? Yes, ma'ams.
I thought she was trying to come in. I was
She's
looking at
in
the.
again, but she's not saying anything.
Let me see. We
So
got.
when you get a chance, look
She
at that
said
email
nope.
I sent you with that video, and because that's that same girl. and she was doing an interview with someone. I know you probably seen a bunch of interviews. I don't know if you've seen this one or not, but she was claiming that that book was all fake.
Yeah, I saw this video. I saw that video before.
Oh, okay, all right,
That's Cash.
right.
Hmm. Yeah, I did. Yeah, she said that was fake. It was she's an author. She writes.
Hmm.
What is she? She is not saying anything. No, we cannot hear you.
No,
She's asking us.
everybody said, no, Miss Sylvia, we got to process this.
I gotta go to bed. I got prayer to do. I don't have time for this. Y'all go process it overnight. Go to sleep. Go.
Okay. Well, night night, everybody. And Tanya, you did a great job. I appreciate you reading that. Thank you so much.
Yes, time.
And Henny
Thank
Hill
you.
for
Thank you,
filling
Miss
in.
Henny.
Thank you, Tanya. I appreciate you. I was laughing so hard at that sexual stuff. I couldn't have read that.
Yeah, no, it was kind of, I have to go wash my mouth
I
out.
had to leave the room because my husband was like, "What kind of reading is that?"
Mine's closed the door on me.
He's like, he says, "How can a woman read that book?" Oh.
I know. That's what I'm saying. I got to wash my mouth out. I felt like I've never said those words so much.
I didn't read it. I wasn't gonna read it. It was Henny Hen is the one saying, "Why don't we read the book?"
Yeah, because I was curious. I mean, I could have read it to myself, but it's nice to read with you guys.
Well, this lady here is still trying to come in, and we're about to leave. Yes, ma'am.
I was laughing so hard when you said I'm gonna have to go repent.
Yes.
Yeah.
Disgusting.
I know. I gotta pray tonight too.
All right, we gotta go. Travel world, save your peace. So,
Can you hear me?
yes, we finally can. What's up?
Damn it, it was on mute. I was so excited when I came over here. I heard you guys was reading it because I just listened to some excerpts from someone else. I'm like, are they really doing this? Okay, everything from that book is from them damn transcripts and the docuseries.
No.
Did
Well,
they come out?
It's nighttime. I gotta go to bed. I gotta get up and.
Okay, got one more question. Did that book come out before the docuseries?
Book came out in 2016.
I'll be damned. All right, love you.
Good night, y'all. Good love
Good
y'all.
night. Good night. We'll talk tomorrow about
Good
the
night.
Keep
Good
me
sweet
on.
dreams.
Bye. Good
Make
night.
sure you say your prayers.
Hey Sylvia, where y'all was reading that from? I looked for it and tried to buy the book.
Good night. I'll talk to you later.
We'll send
Email
it to
me.
you. We'll
I
send
gotta
it to
go to
you,
bed.
Travis.
She's still trying to talk. Good night.
We'll send it to you.
Thank you, Tanya.